Hello everyone, this is part 9 of What If Naruto Awakened New Skills, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. At first the crowd was silent as the two made their way to the arena floor, both opting to take the stairs. They made their way to the center of the arena and stood opposite each other. Sasuke still considered Naruto an idiot and as such thought that his best bet would be to outsmart him, knowing he was far faster and far stronger than he used to be. As they stood waiting, the crowd started shouting things like, "Why should that monster be allowed to use the Hokage's name?" and, "He's not fit to use the name of our Hokage." Needless to say, Minato was not pleased at hearing what they were shouting. He used the leaping thunder god technique and appeared beside the proctor. "Silence," he shouted, and immediately every person in the Colosseum was silent. "Now then. Naruto has every right to use my name, the same as every other child has the right to use his father's name," he said in a normal voice. The entire crowd was in a state of shock, with the exception of those who already knew. Even the other genin were in shock at the revelation. The Hyuga elders were in the worst state of any, as the demon brat who was with the Hyuga heiress was the son of the fourth, and it was the fourth himself who told them. They certainly couldn't brand him a liar. Minato then turned to Naruto and spoke to him. "Good luck, son, not that I think you'll need it," he said, ruffling the boy's already unruly hair. Naruto looked at him, smiling broadly. "Thanks, Dad," he said. Minato then used the same technique to return to his seat, and Hayat looked between the two boys in front of him. He didn't need to ask if they were ready. He could feel it coming from both of them. They'd been waiting for this match for a while and they were both more than ready. Deciding it was in the best interests of his health, he raised his hand. "Began," he said, dropping his hand and quickly jumping out the way as Sasuke instantly ran at Naruto, drawing a kunai. Naruto waited till the last moment before disappearing from view and reappeared standing behind Sasuke with his right side facing him and a kunai held in his right hand, held in front of Sasuke's teeth. For most this would have been the point to surrender, but Sasuke and Naruto weren't most. Sasuke had charged holding a kunai in his left hand and now held a second in his right aimed at Naruto's. Both boys jumped back and smiled. "I'm impressed, Naruto, you've gotten good. Let's see how good you really are," said Sasuke. "By all means, show me what ya got," replied Naruto. As soon as he'd finished, Sasuke started flashing through the hand signs for his grand fireball. Naruto also started going through signs, but too fast for anyone to see. He seemed to be doing 6 for Sasuke's one and only Hinata. Neji and Kakashi, who had uncovered his Sharingan eye knowing he was going to need it to watch the match, could see Sasuke's hand signs. Sasuke was shocked at how fast Naruto was going through seals. As Sasuke finished the signs for the grand fireball, Naruto seemed to finish the signs for his jutsu and he said the name, leaving everyone in shock. "Mezurashi Tatari no Doku Mizumi Jutsu," said Naruto. The technique was well known by the older generation as a powerful technique that could stop any opponent in their tracks, but because of the 200+ hand signs and the large amount of chakra needed for it, it was kept in a scroll on its own in the Hokage's tower and never taught. Only once a ninja reached Jonin where they told of its existence. All were offered the chance to learn it and informed of the number of signs and the amount of chakra need. The chakra levels meant that, other than Naruto and Minato, only a handful of Jonin and Anbu had the chakra to do it even once a day, and if they did they would need all their chakra and be useless after they had done it. For Sasuke, the world froze and then it started moving again for a split second and then went black. Naruto then casually walked up once again, performing hand signs at very high speed, apparently not even noticing the chakra drain. As he reached Sasuke, he finished the signs and placed 2 fingers on his forehead. "Yori on me kidate jutsu," he said. Again all of the older ninja were shocked. This technique had 159 signs to it and required the equivalent chakra to a Chunin about to become a Jonin. That is, if your chakra control was perfect, it could take anything up to Anbu level chakra reserves to perform. They knew Naruto had already used the equivalent of around Kage level chakra and now he was using easily Jonin level chakra reserves. The technique was another that was sealed away because of the amount of chakra needed, but its effect was to force almost all of a person's chakra out of their body, transforming it to nature chakra and giving it to the earth around them to grow plants. Finished with the technique, Naruto released it, and soon after Sasuke woke up. He could only just stand. Naruto, however, didn't even look as if he'd done anything. Kakashi-sensei, what are those techniques Naruto used? Asked Sakura. Ino, Hinata and Kiba were sitting nearby and listened intently to Kakashi's reply. They are two of the most draining techniques for a user I've ever heard of. The first instantly stops the target no matter where they are in relation to the user, but the price is high. It requires almost the same amount of chakra as a jonin bordering on Anbu level would have in their entire body. The second turns all of the victim's chakra into the nature chakra that plants use and then forces almost all of it out into the ground below. It requires chakra equal to a high-level chunin with perfect chakra control, never mind the near Anbu level Naruto would need, and Naruto doesn't even look like he's done anything, replied Kakashi. Sakura and Ino didn't believe him, and Hinata and Kiba could hardly believe him. Ino turned to Asuma and Guy, who were standing next to Kakashi. Is that true? They really require that much chakra? She asked. Asuma simply nodded. Yes, even we can't use one of those techniques without running the risk that we could be completely drained of chakra. I've seen the first one used once by Jiraiya of the Sannin. He couldn't even stand afterwards, he'd used so much chakra, and like Kakashi said, Naruto doesn't even look like he's done anything. When you've spent as much time fighting as we have, you sort of develop a sixth sense to tell you how much chakra an opponent has left. It helps to know whether you should stay and fight or run. I can't tell exactly how much he has left, but I know this much: he could use both techniques again and still not be affected, said Guy. At this, both Sakura and Ino got hearts in their eyes. They had heard from Sasuke and Shikamaru about Naruto's Fuengan and how powerful it was. This meant that he made basically every other ninja in the village seem like they were weak. Hinata saw this and decided to say something about it. Back off, you two, he's with me and you'll find that he's not going to change that, she said softly but firmly. Neither of the other girls had heard her use such a voice, and had both heard that she had mastered the Rasengan, which had widely been considered one of the most powerful techniques in Naruto's arsenal, quicker than Naruto had. They knew it would be best not to mess with her. How did you get so powerful, Naruto? You didn't even use the fox's chakra, and you've used more chakra than a third and me have combined, thought Kakashi. At first the crowd was surprised that the Uchiha had been defeated so easily. Then they remembered that his opponent was the son of the genius fourth Hokage, so it wasn't all that surprising that he lost, but despite that, the ease of his defeat was a complete shock. Sasuke tried to launch an attack with a kunai. He figured a technique that could drain him so much must have taken at least as much from Naruto. As he swung, Naruto just flowed round it, and as Sasuke lost his balance and fell, Naruto caught him. Careful, Sasuke, you've only just got enough chakra left to live, you can't fight, he said calmly, and just to prove he still had chakra left, he created a shadow clone which lifted Sasuke and held him up. Hayate looked on amazed. Coming to his senses, he realized that this match could only have one winner. Naruto wasn't even showing signs of being tired, never mind signs that he was low on chakra. I'm stopping this, cough, match due to, cough, combatant, cough, exhaustion, winner Naruto Namikaze, cough, said the proctor. The crowd was shocked, particularly Ino and Sakura, but none could argue that Sasuke could barely stand, never mind fight, and Naruto didn't even look like he'd done anything, never mind some of the most chakra-draining techniques ever created. The clone and the original Naruto then appeared next to the group. Naruto sat down and Hinata, whilst his clone sat down. Sasuke next to Sakura spoke to her. Take care of him, he's out of energy and needs to relax, the clone said before disappearing. Kakashi then walked forward and leaned down beside Naruto. Could I speak with you a moment? He asked. Sure, replied Naruto, looking into his eyes as he still hadn't put his head protector back down to cover his Sharingan eye. The next thing Kakashi knew, he was standing in a strange desert. He looked around and saw Naruto standing to the right of him. He turned to face the genin soon-to-be. He was sure, Chunin. Where are we? He asked, confused about his surroundings. Naruto just smiled. We're in a dojutsu I can create called Kakem, replied Naruto. So this is what it's like. Why did you use it on me? He asked. Simple, as far as anyone will see, this will happen in a split second. They won't even know we've talked, so it gives us privacy as well as time to talk and we don't miss anything, replied Naruto. Fair enough, so tell me, when did you learn those techniques and when did your chakra reserves get so big? I've seen Itachi use Tsukuyomi and it took a lot out him. Sasuke told me that you were hardly affected last time you used this technique. but to use those two first and still be able to perform this, and by the look on your face I'd say you won't even notice the chakra needed for this missing, said Kakashi. You're right as usual, Kakashi-sensei. In short, I merged with the Kyuubi, Naruto said like it was nothing. He watched Kakashi's eyes go wide and then continued, when we found Tsunachi had already been approached by Orochimaru to fix his arms, we came up with a plan that didn't go through. It would seem that Orochimaru predicted it and had some of his goons waiting to take us on. I just finished off my opponent and felt a little sick from my first K. I looked over and saw Hinata take a serious injury and I lost it. He paused, giving Kakashi time to absorb the information before he carried on. I took out the guy fighting her with a very powerful Rasengan and then moved on to Shizunes, Tsunades and Jiraiya's, destroying them all the same way. I subconsciously accessed the Kyuubi's knowledge and found a very powerful technique which I used on Orochimaru and the guy that seemed to be his assistant, he said, watching with amusement the look of sheer shock that was plastered onto Kakashi's face. So what happened with the Kyuubi? I would have expected it to be the dominant personality if you merged with it, said Kakashi, narrowing his eyes as though he were looking at a traitor. Naruto couldn't help but laugh. It was exactly the reaction he expected. Jiraiya was the one that knew what had happened. He'd come across a couple of old legends. One spoke of a time when there were 12 demons, the other explained what happened to the other 3. In most cases the 3 were unnamed, but in 3 countries a different one of the 3 was given a name. Each spoke of them being sealed within a Jinchuriki and that Jinchuriki doing what is impossible for most, finding love. The legends said that upon the Jinchuriki seeing the one they loved in mortal danger, they tapped into the demon's power and merged with it. With their love peak they absorbed all of the demon's chakra and knowledge and destroyed the demon. The same happened to me. If I had become the demon, the whisker marks that I had would have become more defined, my canines would have grown longer and my eyes would be red, he explained. So you did the impossible. I should have known that if anyone could merge with a demon it would be you. I'd also like to apologize, Naruto. I didn't follow my own advice to look underneath the underneath. If I had have done I would have realized you were Minato-sensei's son, replied Kakashi. Naruto smiled at his sensei's belief that he was a complete idiot. He didn't give Kakashi anywhere near as much grief as his personality meant he should have done to get him to train him. Kakashi-sensei, knowing me, would you have expected me to give up as easily as I did do, all those times when you focused on Sasuke instead of training us all? He asked sincerely. Kakashi was surprised at this question, and when he thought about it, it really didn't make sense that gave it up so easily. Now you mention it, I am kind of surprised you didn't pester me further. How come you didn't? He asked, curious now. Naruto just smiled. It's simple, Kakashi. I'd spent a lot of time whilst I was in the academy and before in the Hokage's tower. After the Uchiha I heard most of them talking about the precious last Uchiha. I knew they were talking about the brooding idiot, and so when I was put on the same team as him I realized I never really had a chance of getting your full attention because the council would be putting pressure on the old man. And therefore you, to focus on training the genius Uchiha instead of the last demon brat and the fangirl, replied Naruto. Kakashi cringed when he heard Naruto refer to himself as the demon brat, knowing full well it was likely that he was called it directly by one of the council members. Kakashi couldn't help but smile happily. Naruto had known full well that the council was never going to allow Kakashi to train him, so had in fact been very grateful to Kakashi for finding him good senseis to teach him. Even if he didn't like them, but in order for anyone to buy into him being a loud-mouthed idiot he had to make it seem like he didn't have a clue. Kakashi was amazed at how time and again Naruto deliberately made himself look bad to gain the upper hand, but this fight had been different. He decided it was finally time to show them that he was no pushover. In fact, the only advantage most Jonin would have over him would be experience, and that wouldn't do a lot of good against someone who could even surprise himself and Iruka. Despite his appearance as a Chunin, Iruka had in fact served alongside him for quite a while as an Anbu captain, easily capable of matching most of the Jonin and a large number of the Anbu even at this point. I must say I'm impressed, Naruto. You played the fool and in doing so played everybody else for one. But tell me, why didn't you do better with the illusions if you were so good? Asked Kakashi. I couldn't do them, I still can't for that matter, my dad can't either. I trust you know of the levels of chakra we have even at a young age. Naruto said it as much as a statement as he did a question, and when Kakashi nodded he continued, because of that. Combined with our limited chakra control that takes many years to master, we tend to overload the basic illusions. So whilst it looks like we fail because we don't put enough in, instead they get overloaded and fail. Jonan tend not to use them, but most would find that if they tried they couldn't. They have too much chakra. If I'd had space to make around 1,000 of them they would have been fine, he explained. Oh, so you aren't actually able to create them, said Kakashi, his eyes a little wider than normal because of the surprising news. Naruto shook his head. One last thing, what am I supposed to say after you release this? I just asked to speak to you and it's going to be pretty obvious you've done something, said Kakashi. That one I thought about before I even brought you into the technique. Your words will be, actually we'll talk later, we can't afford you missing your next match, said Naruto with a smile on his face. Kakashi was once again amazed at just how intelligent Naruto actually was. He'd had a cover story planned before he'd even knew what he'd need it for. Naruto then released the technique and they returned. Kakashi remembered what he needed to say quickly as Naruto moved to get up as though he'd only just asked to speak to him. Actually we'll talk later, we can't afford you missing your next match, Kakashi said with his eyes showing that he was smiling. Okay, Kakashi-sensei, replied Naruto settling back down again and wrapping his arm around Hinata. As he turned round the next two names flashed up on the board. Temari no Sabaku, cough, and Sensu Kara please, cough, come to the arena for your cough match, said Hayate. Both genin just jumped into the arena and stood facing each other. Hayate looked to Temari. Ready? He asked. She nodded in response. He turned to the Rain Ninja. Like Temari he had a fan on his back, or more precisely two smaller ones. Each went from his shoulder to the bottom of his back in a cross pattern. He wore a light blue vest and black trousers and no shoes. His hair was very strange, being black on one side and silver on the other. Both sides went down to just past his shoulders where it was straight across. His eyes were also unusual. The irises were gold on the outer edge fading to blue by the pupil. His face looked almost like a curved V and his nose seemed to fit to his face perfectly. Don't hold back, I want to test myself against a fellow fan user, who if I'm not mistaken is at least 2 levels ahead of me, said the boy. His voice was smooth, almost silky. It held no bitterness. In fact, if it held any emotions it would be respect and determination. Very well then, let's see what you've got, replied Temari. Hayate raised his hand. The match between Temari no Sabaku of Konoha and Sensu Kara of Am, Began, he said, bringing his arm down and quickly jumping out the way. Both genin jumped back. Temari pulled out her fan and immediately opened it to 2 dots. Sensu pulled out both fans and opened them both fully. He understood full well the one weakness of the large fan. You couldn't open it fully until you were warmed up or you would pull muscles. He moved his arms up and swiftly brought them down again. Hurricane Sisters, Jutsu, he said as 2 strong bursts of wind came from his fans. For most this would be a powerful attack not easily nullified as the winds spun together to form a small tornado that went straight for Temari. Bringing her fan up to her left shoulder she swiftly brought it down and cancelled out the jutsu as the dust cleared and settled back down. Sensu was shocked. Her fan was fully open. How did you open it fully without tearing any muscles? He asked her. She smiled. It's simple, I've already trained to the point where I tore my muscles every time I did it, then I tried to find a way to open it to 3 straight away without tearing muscles. Many people know of the weakness of the larger fans and most try to end a battle quickly before the wielder has time to open it to its fullest. At which point the winds are almost unstoppable and for most the battle is impossible to win. I learned a way to overcome that weakness and open my fan to its fullest right from the start. I figured that if I opened my fan to 2 you'd think the same thing and try to end it with 1 your most powerful attacks, and unless that was around half your power you're no match for me, she replied, and then to show she wasn't bluffing pulled her fan up to her right shoulder and sent a blast 50% stronger than his at him. Despite a quick blast from his own fans to nullify some of the attack, he was still pushed right back to the arena wall. When he looked up he realized that he was no match for her. Despite having trained to use the larger fan as well, he had also found that weakness but had been unable to find a way to overcome it and had thus reverted to using 2 of the smaller fans. She had obviously realized this as well and knew that even if they were matched with the large fans using his 2 small ones he was no match for her. He raised his hand. I can see when I'm truly outmatched. I give up. Thank you for showing me that I chose the right path, he said. He was trying to give her the impression that he had not gotten to that level, but Temari knew otherwise. Both then moved back into the stands and the last 2 names came straight up on the screen. Neji Hyuga vs. Shikamaru Nara. This promised to be an interesting match as all of the rookies knew. They knew that despite Neji being hailed as a genius, Shikamaru was in fact a true genius, and this match could easily go either way. Neji jumped clear into the arena and landed in his starting position. Shikamaru, however, demonstrated just how lazy he could be and just how easy it was for him to control his chakra by walking up one of the walls and round onto the arena wall before walking down the wall onto the floor. He walked into the center and appeared to get ready to go to sleep. He stood in a taijutsu stance with his eyes half closed and his body limp. To most it seemed as though a strong gust of wind would knock him over. Hayate stood in between the two and raised his hand. The final match of round 1, between Neji Hyuga of Konoha and Shikamaru, Nara of Konoha. Begin, he said quickly, lowering his hand and jumping out the way. Neji quickly ran forward and tried to use the gentle fist style to try and close his chakra points. Shikamaru lazily dodged, and to many it looked like Neji was landing what would normally be counted as good hits for the gentle fist style to Naruto. Hinata, Hashi, Hanabi and the rest of the Hyugas present, it was quite apparent Shikamaru had already worked out how to beat the gentle fist style. As each strike landed or glanced by him, he would send chakra to that area to counteract the chakra Neji sent in to try and close the points, and since he was only using it inside his body, he wasn't using any, and by varying the amount he used he prevented Neji from forcing it through. Then suddenly Neji stopped moving. Shadow Possession Jutsu success. You were so busy focusing on hitting me you didn't notice me form the seals and use my shadow, said Shikamaru smiling. How though? You never brought your hands together? Asked Neji shocked. Shikamaru just carried on smiling. I realized that in moving combat I would have a disadvantage, needing time to perform the hand signs and manipulate my shadow. So I worked on a method to create the seals with my hands separated whilst still getting them to work, and succeeded. I knew that against the likes of you, Naruto and Sasuke, who preferred close quarters hand-to-hand combat, I would be at a disadvantage. Unable to get the time needed to form my hand signs and activate my jutsu, I realized I would need to keep you attacking me whilst doing minimal damage to give me the time I needed. It takes a little longer than normal, but it's a small price to pay for the benefits, he explained. Neji smiled. Shikamaru was a true genius. This technique wasn't just useful now, it would be of great use in the future as well. Congratulations Shikamaru, UW, said Neji smiling, and as Shikamaru released his shadow Neji reached out his hand to shake Shikamaru's. Winner Shikamaru Nara, the next match will be between Gaara no Sabaku and Shino Aburame, said Hayate. Shino then stepped to the edge of the stand. I forfeit this match. I do not wish to endanger my symbiotic companions in a battle I will lose but could avoid before it starts, he said. This didn't really surprise anyone after seeing how Gaara handled his last opponent. Very well, winner by forfeit, Gaara no Sabaku. The next match is between Naruto Namikaze and Temari no Sabaku. Please come to the arena, said Hayate. Temari had decided that despite not having a chance, she wanted to see how well she could do against the boy that defeated and then befriended her younger brother. She jumped into the arena. Naruto K Hinata on the cheek and then just disappeared to reappear in the arena. You're a lucky girl, you know that, Hinata, said Sasuke, surprising everyone. What makes you say that? She asked. Sasuke smiled genuinely. He's probably the most powerful ninja in the world now, and he gained that power for you and you alone. He made defeating me, the Rookie of the Year, seem as effortless as reading a book, and he's already spoken to Kakashi-sensei using Kakem. He replied, still smiling and surprising everyone including Kakashi. How did you know? Asked Kakashi. I still had my Sharingan active and had gained just enough chakra for it to activate for a moment. It doesn't need anywhere near as much as it used to. In that split second I looked at him whilst he looked at you and saw his Sharingan activate and deactivate. I instantly realized what he'd done. I wouldn't even have seen it if he hadn't have increased the power of my Sharingan, Sasuke explained. Hinata just smiled and looked back to the arena. She knew that something had changed in Sasuke when he lost so easily, and it was thanks to Naruto. He had realized that Naruto had gained his strength because of his love for Hinata. He hadn't been able to gain strength as quickly because of his desire for revenge, but that was going to change. He knew several girls wanted to be with him, but which one deserved the chance the most? In the arena, Temari looked across at the young blonde that she was about to face when suddenly his eyes flashed with 5 black stars, or at least she thought they did. It had only been for a moment and now she couldn't be sure. Hayate stepped between them. Ready. He asked, looking at Naruto, who nodded without taking his eyes off Temari's. Hayate turned to Temari. Ready? He asked again and again, got a nod in response. Temari, also not taking her eyes off Naruto's. Began, said Hayate, swiftly dropping his hand and then jumping out the way, but as his hand passed Naruto's eyes they turned to the 5 stars, and when Hayate's hand was out the way they looked straight at Temari. She was shocked but had no time to react as the world faded to black around her and she found herself in a strange desert. She saw Naruto standing in front of her, the same distance away as he had been before. You know, you made a big mistake bringing me to this place, wherever it is, she said with a smile. Naruto just smirked and then vanished. Not really, you see this is my jutsu and I control everything in here, he said from behind her right shoulder. She quickly spun round to face him. He was smiling now, not smirking but smiling genuinely. I have a feeling you want to ask me something, he said calmly. She was shocked but didn't show it. And what makes you think that? She asked, smiling back. The boy was good, it was no wonder he beat Gaara. Gaara would struggle against him to begin with. Otherwise you wouldn't have entered the arena. If you really wanted to test yourself against me you would have challenged me to a sparring match after the exam was over, he replied. She couldn't deny he was right. I wanted to know 2 things. Firstly was, why did you help and then befriend my little brother? She asked. And second, he asked in reply, if you would be interested in a date after the exam is over. She asked with a light blush on her cheeks. Naruto smiled. To answer your second question first, I am already spoken for, but I think Sasuke might be worth your time, and if my guess is right he should be receptive now, said Naruto, still smiling. Temari felt disappointed, but if Naruto was going to recommend a guy that was good enough for her, and in regards to your brother. As you well know, I was a Jinchuriki and I think I probably had it the worse of the 2 of us. Gaara had his sand which protected him of its own free will and was generally attacked by only 1 person at a time. As for me, I was usually attacked by groups of 20 or more, and even if I could have fought back it just wasn't in my nature to do so. But I knew that the one thing he needed was a friend. Without mine I wouldn't have a reason to go on living, and without Hinata I probably wouldn't be alive today. If she hadn't have nearly when I went after Orochimaru for the 2nd time, then I never would have gained the power I did, and Orochimaru probably would have made sure that day, he explained. She could hear the honesty in his voice. Just as long as you don't turn your back on him, she said harshly. I never turn my back on my friends and I never take back my words, for that is my ninja way, he said quietly but with such conviction she could hardly believe it. So what happens now? She asked. Now I will use this jutsu to put you to sleep, and in a couple of minutes you will wake up having lost the match. As far as anyone will know you will have just passed out, he replied, and the world went black. True to his word, she woke up a few minutes later with Gaara and Kankuro looking at her. What happened? She asked groggily. You just fell down when the match started. He waited 2 minutes and then called the match in Naruto's favor. Naruto then picked you up and brought you to us. I was going to hit him but Gaara stopped me. He then waited whilst Gaara created a bed of sand for you and he put you on it and said you'd wake up in a few minutes. The next match will get underway soon, but Gaara asked if we could wait till you woke up and Naruto backed him up, so the Hokage okayed it, said Kankuro. And now that you are awake, I have a match against the toughest opponent I have ever faced, said Gaara, his voice sounding level and monotone to most, but both Kankuro and Temari heard something in it they never expected: excitement. Naruto Namikaze, he was certainly a good influence on their brother and they were glad of it. Gaara no Sabaku and Naruto Namikaze will now come to the arena for the final match, said Hayate. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.